Big Ten Media Day is rolling along out of Vegas. Today we're hearing from the reigning Big Ten champs, Oregon and, of course, Penn State. So Oregon won the Big Ten championship to start 13-0 for the first time ever, and we're wondering what they learned from their early exit in the CFP with a new quarterback under center, likely in Dante Moore. Meanwhile, for James Franklin and Penn State, Drew Aller is back, and they're looking to learn from their CFP semifinal appearance where they lost to Notre Dame. So there's a new DC in town for Penn State. They're hiring Jim Knowles away from Ohio State to be their defensive coordinator. Ohio State, they're the favorites to win the Big Ten at plus 185, but not too far behind. We have Penn State at plus 230 and then Oregon at plus 340. So we want to welcome in our college football analyst, Brandon Marcello, who is joining us from Las Vegas. Brandon, great to see you. And we're going to play a little game, kind of. We're doing Big Ten Media Days buy or sell. So we're going to throw out a statement about a couple of these teams. You got to tell us if you're buying or selling this statement. We're starting off a little spicy in terms of the defending champs here, Ohio State. The statement is Ohio State misses the college football playoff.
Oh, sell that. They've got the most talented roster in the country, according to the blue chip ratio, with 89%, I believe, 4- and 5-star players. Listen, I know they lose about 7 or maybe 8 stars, depending on the lineup you see on defense. But offensively, they still do return a lot of production. They got to figure some things out at running back, but they feel like they've got 3 running backs that could be 3 down guys. And at quarterback, I think with Julian saying, he's going to be someone who's going to be able to deliver the ball, take some pressure off of those running backs as well, because he's still got Jeremiah Smith. He's still got the best player in the entire country, along with Carnell Tate at receiver, who I believe is ready to step up into that role and be one of those top leading receivers there. And that offensive line is still going to be good despite losing a couple of guys from last season, but they have a lot of experience there because players had to step up in place of injured players last year. I really like Ohio State this year. Once again, they probably will be a little bit slower to start the year defensively because they have to return so many starters. Plus, you lose Jim Knowles as your defensive coordinator and you get Matt Patricia. They're going to have some growing pains defensively. I don't know how they repeat a top 5 performance defensively, but that offense is still going to be explosive, and they still have the depth to contend week after week in the Big Ten. They're going to make the college football playoff once again.
All right, and they have a tough test early on facing Texas, certainly a game that we're circling there for week 1. Let's go to USC because the conversation for the Trojans has largely been about Lincoln Riley. How hot is his seat after they're coming off of a 7-6 season? So the statement here for USC is USC fails to make a bowl game. Are you buying or selling that?
I'm going to sell that. I mean, Lincoln Riley just doesn't have losing seasons. I know it's been a downward trajectory really since year 1 there at USC, but they're starting to get that type of depth they need there to contend. I also think that it is an issue for them because they have to travel so far across the country to play in the Big Ten these days. I think that affected them a little bit last year. But again, they've got the depth that they have built. I also think that they're building into next season, 2026. I know no one at USC wants to hear that right now, but they've got the class that could be #1 in the country going into next year, but they've already got some really good depth. The schedule's going to be very difficult for them, but I like what they're doing at quarterback with the transfer there. I like them. I think they get to a bowl game. They're probably, though, going to be a 7 to 8 win team, which is not going to set very well with the fans at USC. But again, I'm saying hold some patience there because I think they're going to be really, really good in 2026.
I was going to say 7 or 8 win season is certainly not what USC fans want to hear. Let's go over to Penn State. So far, by the way, Brandon's not buying anything so far. We got 2 sells on the board, but Penn State.
I'm low on money, man. I'm in Las Vegas. How can I buy anything?
Exactly. Step away from the slots, Brandon Marcello. Let's go to Penn State because they have the second best odds to win the Big Ten behind Ohio State. So the prediction here is that Penn State wins the Big Ten. And you're actually buying this.
Oh, I'm absolutely buying it. I think that much like Ohio State last year with Ryan Day proving doubters wrong after losing against Michigan and never being able to really win a big game and then winning the national championship, Penn State and James Franklin is going to do the same this year. James Franklin is someone who's going to be much maligned because of his record against top 5 opponents. He's 1-15 at Penn State in his career, 1-18 overall going back to his days at Vanderbilt. So everybody's always going to kind of throw bombs at him. This is a program that's always been top 10 type, but they haven't been in the top 5 in the preseason since 1999. It's been a very long time. They'll be in the top 5 this preseason. They've got the most talented, I believe, and experienced roster in the Big Ten this year. And for the first time since 2009, a program in the FBS brings back a 3,000-yard passer in Drew Aller and multiple 1,000-yard rushers with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, I am totally buying Penn State winning the Big Ten this year.
Yeah, only 5 teams in the Big Ten are expected to start their primary 2024 starter, and Penn State being one of those programs. You already alluded to Michigan and what they were able to do last year in beating Ohio State, because by Michigan standards, it was a down year, and still they pulled off a win against the Buckeyes. So Michigan extends their win streak against Ohio State as it appears to be Bryce Underwood time. Are you buying or selling that?
I'm selling it, and I know a lot of people will sit there and go, what proves that they can actually go beat Michigan, let alone have to go to Ann Arbor this year and snap that losing streak. But I think at this point, you got to get off the schneid at some point, and they're going to do it this year. I think the big issue there, as with Michigan, as you just mentioned, they're going to have a true freshman at quarterback. By the end of the season, he might as well be a sophomore. But I think Ohio State, because they're so motivated, they've lost 4 straight. Practically everybody in that program who's not a transfer has never beaten them. And that's really sticking under their skin right now. And I'll tell you what, one player that really upsets is Jeremiah Smith, the superstar receiver, losing the way they did last year, and then also them really shutting him down in the second half of that 13-10 loss. There are a lot of players who were not just primary players last year, but guys that just are sick of losing to Michigan this year, that are super talented. I think that they go into Ann Arbor this year and they finally beat the Wolverines. And I would hate to see what the chatter's like in Columbus if they lose a 5th straight time to Michigan, despite winning a national title last year. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, back in December before the playoff even started, people were talking about, should Ryan Day be fired? Then he goes on and wins 4 straight and wins a national championship. And he's 70-10 overall in his career. But again, Michigan's in his side. I think Ohio State, maybe they're not a national championship program this year, but I think that they'll get back in the good graces of the Ohio State fans by finally beating Michigan.
Yeah, because even if you don't win a natty, if you go and beat Michigan, that's almost like the same thing to Ohio State fans. And in the reverse, Michigan fans, they care about beating Ohio State almost more than they do than winning it all. So finally, let's talk about the Big Ten as a whole. We saw 4 Big Ten teams make the CFP in 2024. So, Brandon, are you buying the notion that 4 Big Ten teams are going to make the CFP once again?
No, I'm selling that. I think we'll see 3. I think it's going to be Penn State, Ohio State, and then a wild card. I know a lot of people are really high on Oregon still. I'm not so much. I could maybe see Indiana actually get back in the playoff once again, or maybe Illinois this year. Illinois is stacked offensively. Their offensive line, defensive lines are phenomenal. I really like Illinois, Indiana to maybe be that 3rd wild card team that gets in. But I think it's going to be pretty difficult for the Big Ten to get 4 teams in this season. I think you're going to see a lot of these programs beat up on each other a little bit. And Oregon is going to be a little bit down. We're so accustomed to seeing them with a senior quarterback. In fact, that matter, like a 19th or 20th year senior, it seems like, with Bo Nix and then Dylan Gabriel. But now they're switching to someone with little to no experience in Dante Moore. They're having to replace a lot on offense. There's going to be some growing pains there at Oregon for the Oregon Ducks. Dan Lanning's never had to really start a true fresh face out there that doesn't have a lot of experience at quarterback. They're going to struggle a little bit. So with that said, 3 teams from the Big Ten, Penn State, Ohio State, and then a wild card, maybe Indiana or Illinois.
We saw Indiana there plus 570 and make the CFP. If Illinois makes the CFP, we're going to have to really watch Tom Fornelli, put a camera on him at all times, because I don't know, I think he's going to freak out. Brandon, we certainly appreciate it bringing us the latest out of Big Ten Media Days in Vegas. And Brandon and our entire 24/7 Sports crew, they are the very best at what they do, from recruiting rankings, transfer portal updates, everything you need. Make sure you check them out at 247sports.com.